This is Jeannie Shear, UW-Madison Division of Extension's Natural Resources Institute. Welcome to the first in a series of SWIMS training videos for the Lakes Monitoring and Protection Network, usually referred to as the LMPN. The videos are meant to be quick references that will include much of the same information found in the SWIMS user guide on the SWIMS site. But specific information for the LMPN has been added here. The videos are meant for AIS coordinators and their staff, as well as new DNR AIS staff, who will be getting other training, but still can find these LMPN-related videos helpful in understanding what the AIS coordinators can do and where the DNR staff can support them. Topics in the other videos include setting up and managing people's profiles in SWIMS, including your own. Also, there will be information about stations, fieldwork, projects, and more. The links to the videos are available on the Wisconsin AIS Partnership website. The SWIMS acronym stands for Surface Water Integrated Monitoring System. The SWIMS database is used by DNR staff, the LMPN, and other partners and volunteers to collect our water-related data. It's also used to generate lab slips, track grants, and a wide variety of projects, associate people to the projects and the related fieldwork, and it contains many documents such as grant reports and photos of aquatic invasive species. This view may be a bit difficult to see on a small monitor, but here's a screenshot of the SWIMS homepage that you will see when you log into SWIMS. We'll look more closely during a SWIMS live tour video. Each of those tan bars are referred to by SWIMS IT staff as containers for the data you can access from each. As you can see, each are for specific topics. The ones that LMPN partners use the most are the tabs for fieldwork, stations, people, projects, resources of interest, documents, and sometimes grants. Since every job has its acronyms, we'll cover some before we go on. Besides SWIMS, you will see and hear these in the video series. We get our WAMS IDs from the Wisconsin Department of Administration. They can be used for many state purposes, and SWIMS uses it for your login. More on the WAMS IDs later. AIS, CBCW, and CLMN are probably already familiar to you, but that's Aquatic Invasive Species, Clean Boats, Clean Waters, and the Citizen Lake Monitoring Network. The SWDV, Surface Water Data Viewer, and the LAV, Lakes and AIS Viewer, are both publicly accessible interactive DNR mapping applications that can be very helpful in our work. A ROI, or Resource of Interest, is something DNR staff create in SWIMS that then pulls data from SWIMS into the maps and tables on our DNR website. This graphic is somewhat out of date, but is a nice illustration of how SWIMS feeds into other important systems. The FMDB in the left oval is now the Fish Management Information System, or FMIS. FMIS and Waters are two other DNR databases that interact or talk to SWIMS, sharing the data that's entered in each. Data from SWIMS is also pulled into DNR's interactive maps, as I said, and onto web pages. Data we provide to SWIMS is also important for compliance with the Clean Water Act. On the bottom of the page are two examples of where SWIMS data can go when ROIs are created. Let's look more closely. Here is an example of a DNR AIS table that pulls its information from SWIMS. When ROIs are created in SWIMS, it also takes data to DNR's Find a Lakes pages on the Facts and Figures tab for each lake that you look up, as shown in the circle at the bottom of this screenshot. There you can see that curly-leaf pondweed is one of the invasive species listed for Druid Lake. This is the Lakes and AIS mapping tool, also called Mapping Viewer. It's probably the most used viewer by the LMPN. Once a species report is verified by the DNR, they create one of the ROIs that I've mentioned. The ROIs connect the data to the maps, and this viewer can then show you where a species has been found to help you answer questions such as, has anyone reported this yet? It's not perfect and it doesn't include every species we look for, but it's a great starting point. A while back, DNR decided only to show the verified species on the public view of this page. That's because concerns were coming up when species were shown as observed before the species was verified to be in a location. To many people in the general public, observed is likely to mean the same as verified, and some felt that the term was a red flag for their waters. DNR and statewide AIS program staff from the Extension are able to bring up the observed species on the map, but in the video covering resources of interest, you will also be shown how you can look them up in SWIMS rather than relying on the viewer. The DNR AIS biologists can also help you find known species locations and create maps from the viewer that include observed species when you need one. Something else SWIMS shares on this tool are the locations of boat launch signs that should be associated with every launch that we have record of. Another viewer, the Surface Water Data Viewer, is a good quick resource for finding SWIMS stations, which are where we report our data. Many people will go here to check for existing stations to use for reporting, but they're not sure if one exists for that location. We'll cover this in another video in more detail also. Unfortunately, the station's layer of data is not on the Lakes and AIS viewer, but there are directions for how to add them on the Mapping Tools page on the Wisconsin AIS Partnership website, and adding stations will also be covered in the mapping video. This is just a short list of how coordinators and biologists use SWIMS, but it covers the most common purposes. You'll probably have volunteers and staff who only enter data, but hopefully as you become more comfortable navigating the database, you'll find it helpful for all of these activities and more. Here is a list of SWIMS projects most LMPN coordinators and staff will have in their personal project list. We'll be going over them in more detail later also. SWIMS projects can be thought of as containers for the work of the LMPN and others. Each project will have a profile page. The page will show who is working on the project now and in the past, stations, which are locations where the work is done, such as boat launches or CLMN monitoring sites, and fieldwork data that is reported to SWIMS. There are often documents such as reports, important emails, and photos also. In SWIMS terminology, we say that all of these things are associations of one with the others. I just described the basics of what you can find in a project profile, but if you look at a person's profile, you'd find a list of projects they're associated with. If you look at a station profile, you'd see if there is any associated fieldwork that's been reported. If you look at a fieldwork event, which is sort of an equivalent of a fieldwork profile, you'd see who did the fieldwork, what project the fieldwork is associated with, and the station where it took place. Getting started advice can vary a bit depending on what you do in the LMPN. If you are a new AIS coordinator for a county, you will be assigned a SWIMS role called Project Coordinator. Your initial profile will have to be set up by the DNR AIS biologist or DNR SWIMS staff, and there are also some statewide program extension staff who occasionally help as needed. Once your profile is set up and you have the project coordinator role, you'll be able to set up and manage profiles for your staff and volunteers. Anyone who enters SWIMS data or who should be listed as doing fieldwork needs to have a SWIMS profile. If they are not going to enter data themselves and they are not interested in looking at SWIMS, they do not need a WAMS ID. We understand that not everyone will be comfortable with setting up profiles at first, but support is available if you get stuck in the process or find yourself in a pinch. Those of you who are not AIS coordinators, your coordinator or one of the others I mentioned can set up your profile for you. By now, You probably should have guessed that we'll also be covering this in a video for managing people's profiles. So make sure you make time as you learn your position to review the videos in the training series. Thank you. If you have any questions, make sure to contact your regional DNRAS biologist, the SWIMS help team, or for program-specific questions, you can reach out to the program's coordinator. We hope you find this video series helpful.